Hi guys, today we are going to discuss about some the use of math in our life, and then how can we apply math in our life. The truth is that we use math all the time. It is pertinent to note how one experiences mathematical applications in daily life from time to time, from one get out from the bed until one goes to bed in the night. Be a cook or a farmer, a carpenter, a mechanic, a shopkeeper or a doctor, an engineer or a scientist, a musician or a magician, an artist or a tailor. Everyone needs math in their life. So, why do we need mathematics in our life?
Okay, why we need mathematics in our life? Because mathematics make our life ordinary and prevent chaos. Certain qualities that are measured by mathematics are power of reasoning, creativity, abstract and spatial thinking, critical thinking, problem solving ability, and even effective communication skill. Like, what are some examples of the use of special random variable?
Like in the binomial distribution, there are some examples of that. First, like consider an experiment where a fair coin is tossed. So at the end of the experiment, we can get only exact two outcomes. That's either we get the head or a tail. So it is an example of binary triad. So when a dice is rolled, and if you get the numbers on the upper face of the dice, if you consider it as odd or even number, so there are also another example of the binary triad, because they got only two outcomes, either it's even or odd number. So usually we will represent the success event with P and the failure with Q, and the probability for P plus Q must always equal to 1. So the binomial distribution is also an example of discrete random variables, because the n always is the whole number. So n equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until the n terms, but it's always the whole number. So if you want to find some of the probability, so might apply the formula of P S equals to K. So in some cases, there are many ways that we can determine the event or successors. So we use the NCR ways to find the probability. So if in some cases, when there are the events that we cannot calculate and it's all very complex, we can try to refer to the binomial distribution table. They can help us to assess the probability that we want. So this binomial distribution is very helpful in our life. For example, for some of the organizations, they can do a survey and they can determine the probability either their product can be sought after by their customer or not. So for in the education field, especially the education ministry, they can determine the overall result of the students. So they might apply the formula. And the last important component of this binomial distribution is the mean and the variance. So mean, we usually apply the formula n times p. N is standing for the number of trials, and the p is probability of success. For the variance, npq. So we just multiply q and p and n, so we get the variance. And I know another branch of this chapter is about the Poisson distribution. Do you have any point to add about Poisson distribution?
A Poisson distribution is a tool that helps to predict the probability of certain events from happening when you know how often the event has occurred. It gives us the probability of a given number of events happening in a fixed interval of time. Poisson distribution varies only for integer on the horizontal axis. Okay, the next subtopic is 10.3, which is normal distribution, right?
Yes. Actually, normal distribution is a probability function that describes how the values of a variable are distributed. It is a symmetric distribution where most of the observations cluster around the central peak and the probabilities of values further away from the mean taper off in all directions. And I have one example of application of normal distribution in our life, and I choose grocery store as an example of normal distribution application in our daily life. Again, grocery store receipts show that customer purchases have a skewed distribution. For example, with a mean $32 and a standard deviation of $20. So, can we explain why we cannot determine the probability that the next customer will spend at least $40? This because the distribution is a skewed distribution. Hence, the normal distribution cannot be used to determine the probability that the next customer will spend at least $40.
So, the example for practical uses of the Poisson distribution is a textbook store rent an average of 200 books every Saturday night. Using this data, we can predict the probability that more books will sell, perhaps 300 or 400 on the following Saturday night. Another example is the number of dinners in a certain restaurant every day.
Yes, I agree with Akira. The Poisson distribution is purposely want to find the probability of some of the events that is occurring at average, and we can predict it through the table provided.
Do you guys have something to talk about distribution of approximation? Do you guys have something to talk about?
Okay, yes. About the distribution approximation, we have to do a small adjustment to the value that we want to find, and the rest we can use the normal distribution to find the probability, and the only difference is we want to make a small adjustment to that.
Alright, I think that's all for our discussion today.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.